Okay, so I'm Andy Paddock, and this will be the first in a series of live streams devoted to the LiveCode programming language. And today we're going to be programming a simple countdown timer that can output the countdown to a text file every second. This is useful if you're doing streaming and you're using something like OBS, because you can set it up as a text input which will automatically update as the text updates. This will be a full GUI application that can be built and deployed to Windows, Mac and Linux. If you don't know about LiveCode, I'm going to give you a very quick and brief introduction. If you're familiar with LiveCode, sorry, bear with me. LiveCode is a cross-platform rapid application development environment which is heavily inspired by HyperCard. It has an English-like language which is easy for beginners to learn but powerful enough for even the most advanced coder. Variables are typeless. That's very different to a lot of other languages. And the typing is done at compile time based purely on the context of the variable. LiveCode employs a compile-free workflow, which means you can instantly switch between run and edit modes just by basically one click of a button. LiveCode is fully multi-platform, and you can program for iOS, Android, Mac, Windows, Linux, server, and HTML5. So LiveCode at the moment comes in two basic flavors. There's the LiveCode commercial paid-for version and the open source version, which is also called the community version. The open source version was launched in 2013, just had to check that, following a very successful funding campaign via Kickstarter. So what's the difference between the two versions? Apps built with LiveCode open source must have all the source code available under a GPL license. Apart from that, you can create and sell your apps as you wish. Functionality is, with a few exceptions, the same as LiveCode commercial. Apps built with LiveCode commercial can have the code protected by a password so that your app's source code can be encrypted. This is not the case with the community version. However, it does give you a free entry into the LiveCode platform, and you can develop fully fledged apps. And if you need to protect your source code, then just go and buy a fully paid version. Code can be integrated within the binary source file or separated out into a text-only format, which is useful if you're working in teams. For today's app, we will use the integrated method, so everything's going to be within the GUI binary stack itself. So let's get on. Let me just switch over to my desktop, which hopefully you should be able to see now. If the project browser here isn't open, then you need to go to Tools and make sure Project Browser is ticked. Also, to give me a little bit more room, I like to switch off the toolbar icons here. So let's start off. We're going to create a new stack. New stack, I'm just going to take the default size. The base, LiveCode uses the analogy of a stack of cards. So you have the base, which is the stack, and in that stack you can have one or many cards. Each of those cards can have controls on them, and the way that LiveCode is actually coded or your app is actually coded, is that LiveCode is message driven. So if you say have a button on a card and you click on that button, you can capture a mouse up event, which will then be captured in a mouse up handler. If it's not captured there, it will go down to the next level, which would be the card level where that control is. And if it's not captured there, it will go down to the stack level. The message, it's really important in LiveCode to get this into your head that everything is message driven. So let's get on and actually code this thing. So what do we need? I'm just going to resize the stack a little bit, so I don't think we need it very large. So we're going to need fields for putting the time in, the countdown period. And I think it's probably easier, instead of just having one, we have two separate fields, one for minutes and one for seconds. So let's just drag a field on here. I'm going to resize it. I'm going to Control C and Control V just to copy it to make, so I now have two fields. And I'm going to do a right click on the first one, bring up the property inspector, and I'm going to call that, what shall I call it, minutes. And same for the second field, and we're going to call that seconds. Okay, I also want to have a little separator in between the two fields, so I'm going to drag on a label, which I'm going to call separator. Sounds good enough. And the content of that is going to be a colon. And I'm going to also make that a bit bigger and center it, and then resize that and put it up here. I'll make it a little bit smaller, get it in between properly. Sorry, I've got a very noisy mouse here today. My other one I had been using, unfortunately died last night. Really useful. Okay, so we have a minutes field and a seconds field. So I'm just going to set the text to these to be a little bit bigger than standard, and bold it and center, and the same for this one. Bold, bigger, and center it. Okay. So what else do we need? We need a start-stop button. I'm just going to use one button first, and we'll change the label of this button depending on whether the countdown is running or is paused. I think pause is better than stopped. So I'm just going to call this button start. The label automatically gets entered in, but I would just want to hard code that just to make sure it gets taken. Okay, so we now have a button called start. What else do we need? I'll just resize that a bit, it doesn't have to be quite so big. We're going to need, what else do we need? We need start. So we've got our time in the start. Oh, reset button. Let's throw another button in here. And we're going to call this reset. I'm not too worried about the alignment and formatting of all the controls yet. We can sort that out once we've got the countdown running. Anything else? Okay, we're going to need another button, which will be to bring up a file selector so that we can say where we want the countdown to be saved to. So let's just call that file lock ? Or shall we just call it file? We'll just call it file. Okay, just put that up there for the moment. It's quite nice to actually have the option of whether we're going to save whether we're just going to use this as a standalone countdown timer, or whether we're going to save it to a file or not. So we just bring up a checkbox and we call that save to file. And we'll just separate out the words. Put a question mark in there for the label. Okay, so next we need a field, which is going to be quite long, which will contain, when we've brought up the file selector to say where we want to save the countdown text to, we can put it in this field so we can actually see where we're saving to. I'm going to call that, what should we call it? I think, what should we call that? File location. File location. Okay, so is that everything we need for the GUI? I think it is. So let's get on with actually adding some code to some of these controls and getting the countdown working. So looking in the project browser here, if we expand the tree view, excuse me, we can see all the controls that are now on the card. We only have one card, and I'm going to rename that to main. It's just something I like to do for the first card or the main card of a stack. I'm going to also bring up the property inspector for the stack, and I'm going to call it, give it a name, count timer, and I want to put a title which will come up on the title bar. At the moment it's taking the default name of the stack, so we call that count timer, and I'm now going to save that before I do anything else. So I'll make sure to save as, where should we put it? On the desktop. I've created a folder for it already. I'm going to save it now. Okay, so that's all nice and safe now. We won't lose everything we've done. So, what do we want to do first? So I think the first thing we should do is populate these two fields with zeros. And we should do that when the stack first opens. So I'm going to go into the stack script here. And I'm going to pick open stack handler, if I can find it. Okay, so I'm going to go on open stack. So creating a new handler which will fire when the stack is open, so when the program first runs. And in there, I'm going to call out to a routine which we will use to reset the countdown at a later date, but it will also pre-populate these two fields correctly. So I'm going to call that, I'm going to jump out to a reset countdown. Reset countdown routine or handler, and I'm going to create that here. Okay, so when the stack opens, it will go off and try and find this routine procedure handler, which we just created to reset countdown. And in there, we're going to put, what are we going to put? 0, 0 into field. FLD is just a shorthand way of writing field into field. We had one called minutes, didn't we? Minutes. I'm going to copy that because we obviously want to do the same for seconds. Into field seconds. I'm going to apply, and I'm just going to now fire off this reset countdown handler to see what happens. Open stack, we can do that. Let's open stack. And now we have our minutes and seconds fields have now been pre-populated in the format that we want. Okay, let's do a save. Right, so that's number one. What else do we need to do? What else would be useful is to make sure that the location field here is emptied on when we start up. Do we want to do that? Let's think about that. No, not yet. Okay. What I was thinking we could do as well is, instead of having each time to pick a file location, every time you start up a program, instead of having to every time pick a file location to save the text to, the countdown text to, it'd be useful if we could remember that or record it somewhere and then load it back into the program when it starts up. A safe location is normally documents folder. Yep, so we're going to, let's think about this. So I'm going to call the file that we will save at a later date file log.txt, and that will record whatever has been put into this file location field here. So, and I want that in the documents. So I think the first thing I want to do is to make sure that the file location field is empty. Just to clear it basically before we start entering any new data in there. So I'm going to put empty into field, and it was called file location. File location. Just going to do a save. Then we're going to use, let's put URL. Let's make sure I get the right format here. URL. No, that's not correct. I need that. So, and I need that because I'm going to use file. So URL is basically a file descriptor location. So it can be a remote URL, a web address, or it can be a local file, file URL. And to format it as a file, we have to tell LiveCode that we're actually looking for a local file, which is done with this file descriptor here. And then we can concatenate it using and we're going to put it, we're going to find special folder path. Folder path, and that's documents. That's correct. And we're going to have the name of the file, which is going to be file block.text. Okay, let me just expand this a bit so we see what's going on. So what we've done here is we said we're going to get this file URL, which is going to be in the user documents. This is a special command in LiveCode, which is basically doesn't mean helps you to find the location of your documents folder without having to actually physically specify it. And so we're going to have the documents folder, and then we're going to look for file lock.txt, which is a file we're going to save later on, which will contain the location of the countdown text file here. So we're going to put that in there. So when it starts, the first time, because we haven't actually saved this file anywhere yet, it won't do anything. Okay, what else do we have to do for startup? I think actually that's probably it for the moment. Let me just save again. So what's next? Let's work on the start button. And we're going to use a mouse up handler. And you don't have to type it in yourself. You can press on the handler list at the side here, and LiveCode will insert it for you. So what we're going to do, we need the start button. We need to change the label between start and pause. Let's do that first, yeah. So we do a conditional if the label of me is, what do we want to start here? Start. Then I want an else here. Me is a really nice construct in LiveCode. It's instead of having, if you actually have a handler inside the control, if you're coding the handler inside of the control you're working on, then instead of having to specify it like normally you'd have to say if the label of button start is start. You can just specify me to denote that's what you're working on. I don't think that was very clear, but I think as you see it working, it'll be easier to understand. So if the label of me is start, then what do we need to do? We need to set the label of me to pause. Set the label of me to pause. So when we click the start button, if the label is start, it will then change to pause. And then we're going to jump out to a routine which we haven't defined yet, called, we're going to call it countdown. This will be the main looping routine which actually decrements the seconds from the time remaining. Else, so if the else will be that if the label of me is not start, we need to set it to start. Is that correct? Let's just think of that. Yep, we need to set it to start, because if it's not start, it'll be pause. Set the label of me to pause. Okay, I'm just going to save that. And countdown is a routine procedure handler we haven't defined yet. I'm going to actually, instead of defining it here in the button, remember I said that the LiveCode is message driven, so if we don't catch that here in the button, it will drop down to the next level, which will be the card level. So I'm going to actually define that in the card, which will make it accessible to all controls on the card as well. So I'm going to put in here a handler called, we're going to create one called countdown. And I'm just going to, just to check this is working, I'm just going to open an alert box which will say hi. So I'll just apply this. Let's go back. Over here we have two buttons. Over here we have a browse tool, which should really be called a run tool, and we have a pointer tool, which should really be called edit, and at the moment we're in edit mode. Now I want to actually run the program a little bit, so I'm going to press the start button. That was a silly mistake. Instead of, I don't know why I put a alert as answer. I don't know why I did that. Apply, let's check this again. So pause. What's going on here? Start. Okay, if the label of me is start, then set the label of me to pause. Yep. Else, set the label of me to start. Okay, let's try again. So start, pause, and it jumps to the routine which we haven't defined yet. Okay, start, pause. Okay, good. So we've got a good jump out to here. So I shall get rid of that for the moment. Just put a comment holder in there for the moment. Okay, so let's think about the reset button now. So what will we need to do? We will need to, let's bring this button up, the code for it. Mouse up. Again. So we reset, we want to make sure that the start pause button is set back to start. So we'll set the label on button start to start. Okay, that's the first thing to do. And then I think what we would do, let's just save. If we go back to, now here's something interesting. You notice that LiveCode actually hasn't picked up the code changes in here. They're still showing 0. This is quite a recent event. I've noticed it a few times. So basically all you need to do is to shut the project browser down and open them up again. And hey presto, there are your lines of code. It's a bit annoying. I know it's in the bug base to be looked at. Hopefully that'll be sorted pretty soon. Okay, so let's go and have a look. In the stack script, we have a reset countdown, which resets the minutes and seconds fields. So I think we're going to call that as well from our reset button. So we will just call reset countdown. Okay, let's save that. And come on, let's save that. And go a little bit slow. And what I want to do is just want to test that by putting arbitrary numbers in here. And reset. Good. That's exactly what we want. Okay, is that everything for that? Really? I think that's all we have to actually do for the reset button, so I think we can close that out of the code editor now. So, what should we do next? I think probably next is to do. No, let's get the countdown working first. And we're doing that in the main card script. So let's think about this. So I'm going to let's think about this. On countdown. Right, so what do we want to put in the first box in the minutes? How many minutes do we want? I think we'll allow three digits for the minutes and 2 digits for the seconds. Seconds has to be 2 digits. Yeah, I think that will give us enough time for a countdown. Okay, so we're going to okay, for the minutes, we're going to set the number format to 0. So works number format. And I'll got to define a field of field minutes. Two zero zero zero. So let's just apply that and see what happens when we run it. Countdown 1.5 minutes to 000. Is that correct? Okay, then we need to actually action something in that field for that to take effect. So minutes, we wanted to get everything into seconds, so we want to take whatever's in the minutes field and times it by 60 to give us, to give us a second. So we're going to say put field minutes, so whatever's in the minutes field, we're going to put it into a variable, and I'm going to call it, what should I call it? It's going to count down. So time left minutes. It's really good to make your variables descriptive. And I'm also going to define that as a local variable. You don't have to define what type of variable you have or the scope of the variable, but I find it always good practice. So local control V, and let's just save that. And then we're going to make sure, set the number format of the seconds fields. Number format field seconds 200, and we're going to do exactly the same thing, but we don't need to. Okay, put field seconds into T left seconds, and again I'm going to declare that as a local variable. What I haven't done here is I need to multiply the value in the minutes field by 60, otherwise we won't get the seconds. Okay. So that takes care with getting our seconds left. So we now need to add these two variables together to give us a total amount of seconds available. Yeah, so we will put T, actually let's just copy these, V plus T time minute seconds. I'm going to put them into a new variable called T time left. And we'll also declare that as our local variable. Okay, just save. So T time left now contain the seconds of, so let's just check that. So I'm going to say answer T time left. So apply, and we'll run this handler countdown. 0. Okay, so let's put some numbers in here. 120 plus, what should we put in there? 15. 15. And we'll run this handler again. Okay, so that's the total number of seconds that we've said the countdown duration will be. So that's working nicely. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so what's next? So basically all we're going to do now is subtract 1 from t time left every second. But we need to make sure, so I think first thing to make sure is that t time left is greater than 0. So we haven't reached the end of our countdown. So let's do an if statement here. If t time left is greater than 0, then let's think about that. And there's probably going to be an else there as well. No, it's just, yep, else later on. So if t time left is greater than 0, that means we haven't reached the end of our countdown. And we also have to make sure that we're not paused. So we have to check that the label of button start is pause. That means we've actually initiated the countdown. So we put another if statement in here. If the label of button start is pause, so that means the countdown is running. We need it rather than and if. Let's just save that for that. So if the countdown, the value of the seconds in the countdown is greater than 0, so it hasn't finished, and basically if the label of button start is pause, which means we haven't paused the countdown, we will subtract 1 from time, 1 from t time left variable, and then we're going to put those values back, the remaining back into our minutes and seconds field. So the next time it comes through the loop, it again gets whatever's in those fields and decrements it by 1. So how do we subtract? That's right, subtract. Oh, isn't LiveCode great? Subtract 1 from t time left, isn't it? Yeah, t time left. And now we have to put the values back into the minutes and seconds fields. So we have to convert, the seconds will be okay, but the minutes we have to convert back into minutes from seconds. So we need to divide the t time left by 60. Okay, put t time left, t time left, div 60 into field minutes. Is that correct? Yep. And then we're going to put, so that should give us the minutes. Oh, excuse me. Put t time left. Now we want to make sure we just have the remainder, whatever's left Is that correct? Yeah, we divide by 6. We want whatever's left to be put into the seconds. So we'll put mod 60 into the field. Oops. Seconds. Okay. Right. We're then going to use a send in time construct, which will allow us to, let's just start this off and then it makes more sense. Send countdown to me in 1000 milliseconds. Oops. Seconds. Okay, so what this will do is it will send whatever we specify here to whatever target in this time. So we're going to send, the target is going to be me. So it's going to be this routine that we're in, the handler we're in. And we're going to send, we're going to say, hey, well, actually send it to the card, sorry. And we're going to send, we're going to ask it to perform the countdown handler again. So every second, 1000 milliseconds, will come out, go back up to countdown, drop back through, check to make sure time left isn't greater than 0, to make sure the countdown is still active and that we're not in pause mode. If we are in pause mode, then we obviously jump out. Okay, so I think that's a basic countdown, but I want to put one more extra command in here. Wait 0 with messages. Now, although it's not really needed for the program to work, when you're working with loops, it's not too hard to get yourself stuck in an infinite loop. And then it's extremely hard to break into it. LiveCode does have a break key combination, which is control and period. But it doesn't, it needs a bit of time to actually catch a message and action it. And if there's not enough time, you can't jump out. But if you use the wait command, wait is normally blocking, but we're going to tell it to wait for 0 seconds with the attribute of with messages, which means in that wait period, messages can be sent to the program, which gives you enough time to actually break in if you do actually get yourself into an infinite loop. I'll say hopefully we won't need it, but it's there just in case. Okay, we've got an end if there. So what else do we want to do? I think that is actually the time. Let's see what happens. Let's try and run this. I'm going to change this to, it doesn't really matter, I'll put 12 and I'll put this, yeah, 15 is okay. Let's start. Okay. Okay, so the LiveCode debugger has showing that I have an error on this line. It's very obvious what it is. So I need to just turn off the debugger for the moment so I can actually get into the code. I've missed. Actually, if we go back and do that again, let's just have a look at that a bit more in detail. If you look at the errors pane down here, it shows us which line the error's in, as well as being highlighted. And it says it can't find the handler near time, t time left, character 18. So somewhere around here, there's a problem. It's very obvious that I've actually missed off a letter because it doesn't understand throw, because it's not an English word. For it would have understood, but from it doesn't. So let's just recorrect that and try again. Start 14, 13. So look, we've got our countdown working. We'll just check that when we get down to 0 here, that it decrements the minutes as well. Good, all working nicely. We hit pause. Then we jump through this loop and we've seen that the label of button start is start, so it won't do the countdown anymore. It just holds there. So we'll start again. So we've now got a nice start pause working. And reset 0. Good. We just save. So basically the countdown section is done now. We're going to now work on saving the countdown to a text file. So the first thing we need to check is that to see if whether this checkbox has actually been checked or not. If it's been checked, then we do a saved file. If not, then we just skip it. Okay, so I'm going to check that, and we're still in this countdown loop here. Okay, so if the so for a checkbox, it's either highlighted or unhighlighted. So we're going to check. We're going to see what the highlight status is of the checkbox. It's actually a button. If the highlight of button, it's just a specialized type of button. And what did we call that? We called it, is it that one? Save to file. Yeah, save to file. Button, save to file. Is true. So that means it has been highlighted. If the button, then, and another end if. So to reformat the code in the code editor in LiveCode, you just hit the tab button, the tab key on your keyboard, and it automatically reforms it and structures it nicely. So we've got a countdown going, and now we want to see, we've checked to see if the highlight of the button, the checkbox, save to file, is highlighted. If it is, we now need to save the countdown to the text file. Okay. So what do we want to do here? Let's think about this. So we want to check that. So we check to make sure this is highlighted. We also need to check that there's actually something in the file location field before we try to save any data out. We have that if there. So we're going to do another if statement. So if, let's think about that. If we need to check to see if it's empty or not. If field file, was it location, loc? Did I put file location? Location is not empty. then, and there's another field. Something you might notice as we're going along is that if you was writing pseudocode to say what you wanted to do, it's basically the same as the code you're writing in LiveCode itself, which makes LiveCode pretty much self-commenting. So quite often it's as long as you name your variables carefully and name your controls, so they're very obvious what they are and what they do, then you really don't need to put many comments in your code, as it's very, very readable. Okay, so if field file location is not empty, I don't want a space in there, that would give me a problem, then we can do our save into file. So you want to, basically we're going to put both our minutes and seconds fields. Put field minutes and what else do we want to do? Put field minutes. Oh, we'll put a separator. So we're going to use the and concatenator again. I always have trouble saying that word, concatenator. And we'll put let's put our separator symbol in there. We'll put a space around it as well, just gives a bit more room. And concatenator. Put field minutes and field seconds. Where do you want to do that? We'll call it, we'll put it into another variable, into T output, let's call it T output. Into T output. I'll just define that again up here. Just going to move this pencil out of the way because it's continuously rolling around and annoying me. Okay. So if the highlight of save to file is true, and if the field is not empty on the file location field, we're going to put the contents of field minutes and field seconds into a new variable called T output. We're then going to put field file location. That's whatever location we've picked, which we haven't sorted out yet. Put field file location. So the contents of that field will go. We'll put it into another variable called tfile, which is where we want to save, which will hold the value of the location of where we want to save our countdown to. So again, I'm just going to put that there, do a save. Okay, right, so now we have in T output we have our countdown value, and in T file we have our location to save the countdown value to. Okay, now we're going to put the T output. So that's, let's get our spelling wrong. T output into a URL. Remember the URL descriptor. And so we're going to actually be putting this into a file this time. So we need, as before, we need to open brackets, quotes, file, and our concatenator file, and T file where we want to save it. And I think that is it. So should I have an error somewhere here? So have I got an extra end if? You can see I've got a red mark up here to show that there's an error in here. So if let me just do a tab to make sure it's formatted. So this belongs to this belongs to this. See if I need an else in there. If time left equals 0, I need another endif in there. That's better. So I hadn't put in an ending end for this statement here. Okay. There's a lot of this statements here. It's got a bit messy. Right. So I think that's everything to do with the file location. So if none of that is true, so we're saying if so basically now if t time left isn't greater than 0 or 0, we want to put at the end here. What do you want to do? We want to set the label button. That's very noisy. Start back to start. And what we can do is we can throw up a little dialogue. It's ended. Just a little message to say the countdown has ended. I just save that. Let's just format this a little bit better. Okay. Okay, so let's untick that. We're going to put 5 seconds in there, start it, and hopefully when it gets down to 0, we should get a little dialog box come up, which it hasn't. So why is that? Set the label button start to start. Has it done that? No. Okay, so we've got our end in the wrong place. So that doesn't matter for this. We get down to 0. Oh. Just a minute, just a minute. What am I doing here? I've got an extra. Let's take that out again. So I've got these 1, 2, 3, let's try and work it backwards. So I need the end countdown, then an end if, and an else statement. This is what's going to fire if the countdown is 0 or below. That's correct. Okay, those two are correct. So what have I done here? I've got to have an end if in here to close the down. So I think what happens if we take the else out and put this Control X in here and try and run it free. Start. So what have I got going on here? If t time is greater than null, then we do all this. If, let's just take that up so they all belong together. Okay. Then subtract. And if the highlight set to true, that all looks good. So this must be an else. Let's just try that again, in case it didn't get picked up for some reason. Start. Oh, okay. The code changed last time, just wasn't picked up for some reason. Okay, that's as it should be. Good. So next, I think we should do the file button to actually decide where we're actually going to save the countdown file. So let's think about this. This could be quite involved. So I think first thing we want to do is to make sure, use a mouse up handler again. So the first thing we need to do is to make sure that we empty the, do you want to empty the field location? No, I don't think we will actually. But what we do, I think we do the code now to actually choose a file to save to. LiveCode has a really nice mechanism for this. We're going to ask, and we're going to ask for a file, and we're going to give it a message, which will say something like, I don't know, please name your file, and we want the type of the file to be a text, so with type text. So let's apply and just make sure that little bit works. File, go into run mode, and it brings up our file selector. Please name your file. Okay, I'll just cancel this. So next thing we need to do is to check to see if the cancel button's been hit. If it isn't, then we want to do the file save. So if you click anything if you click cancel or save in the file ask file dialog, the result of that will be put into a special LiveCode variable called it, which again is very useful. So we can just refer to it to see what's happened, what the user has done to the file selector dialog. So we will go if it is cancel. We want to check if it is, or should we check that it's not cancel? It's not cancel. I think it's probably better. So if cancel has not been pressed, then let's just give us a bit of space here. Okay, if it is not cancel, so save has been pressed, then we're going to put it into another variable, which is easier to remember. Put it into T file, what do you call it? File lock. And up here, I want to define that local T file lock. Put it into T file lock. So now T file lock contains what was selected by the user in the file dialog. We need Now we also need to make sure, because ideally we just want the user to put in the name of the file and not .text, but we need to check to see if they have put .text in, and then we need to do some action on that. So we're going to say if char characters, and we're looking at, so .text is the fourth character from the end, so it's -4 to the last character, which is -1 of T file lock is .txt. So that means the user has added in the file extension. Is that correct? That's what we want to do. Yeah, we want to put exactly what they've entered into our file, like into the field. So we're going to put T file lock into field file location. That's the one we're using, isn't it? Location. Put T file lock into field file location. Why? What am I getting missing then? Oh, yeah, of course. No, we're going to put. Okay, let's put an else in there. So if they have added the text, you want to put the whole text if they've written into the file location. Else, we need to put T file lock, and we need to, if they haven't added the extension, we need to add it on for them. And .ttext into field file location now, of course. Field file location. Okay. Let's just abbreviate that, make it easier. I'm just going to save. So if they've entered the text, whatever that is, we put in this field file location. If they haven't, we add it on for them. So, okay, that's fair enough. And then we need to take whatever's in that field, put field file location into a URL. Is that correct? URL. And again, it's going to be the same construct as we used before. It's going to be a file. And we need it to go into special folder path, documents. Documents, is that correct? Yeah. And so it's going to go into a file. So what we're doing here, we're saving the location that we've selected for the countdown to be saved to a folder, a file in our documents path, which if you remember when we start up the stack, we go and retrieve that file and we called it file lock.txt. So I think I can take all of that. And file text. So now I need into URL file special folder path documents, and the file name is going to be file lock.txt. Okay. So that's that. We're also let's not see here. Saving the file. Let's start. We go start countdown. So main, and we're saving the file. Whatever's in the field file location. Okay, and then in button file. So put field file location. So what I want to do, I want to just put field file lock. Is that correct? I think let's actually let's try it and see. So let's set a timer going, save to file, and pick a file, cancel, no, so cancel puts text in there, so there's a problem there, okay. So let's put in here if it is not cancel, else put empty into field file location. Let's try that. So file, cancel, okay, file, cancel, hasn't worked. So if it is not cancel, we do this. If it is cancel, let's just save this, perhaps it hasn't been picked up again. File, cancel. So let's pick a file and see what happens. So I'm going to put it on in this folder, and I'm going to call it countdown. Let's do a save. And it's added the .text to the end for us. And if we go and look in that folder, desktop, countdown. It hasn't actually saved it. So what's going on here? If it is not cancelled, put it into tfile, put tfile and text into field file location. That works. Put field file location into URL file and special folder path documents and file. No, that's okay. So actually, let's go and have a look at our documents folder first. Documents. So we've got a file location text which has the location of our countdown. I'm just going to delete that to make sure it gets recreated. So we go file, desktop, and I call it countdown. .txt, I'm going to call it this time. And see if that works as well. And in here, we have our file lock text, which has the location where we're going to be saving our countdown to. So that bit works nicely. I'm going to come back to this in a moment. So let's go back to our main, where we actually start saving our file out to. We're going to save it out to. So when we say start, it should be sending our output out to whatever's in field file location. File, that should work. So let's go back to desktop, because that's where we decided we were saving the countdown to. We haven't got a text file in there for any reason. If the highlighter button says it's true, put field names into empty, put field into T output, field file location into T file, put T output into URL file, and is that correct? Let's just think about what's happening here. T output into URL. From T file. So put field file location into T file. Right, I just want to why isn't that running? That should be running because we know. All right, let's just check what T file is. So I'm going to put an answer T file in there. Oops. In that loop, just so we can see what's happening. Apply. Start. Countdown text, that's correct. Yeah, so we're in a nice little loop now. Pause. So I just use the control dot, try and break out of this. Okay, countdown ended. Answer T file. So we know T file. We know that T file actually contains the correct location. So why isn't it being saved? Put T output into T file. Okay, why hasn't that been saved? It doesn't look in. Oh, it is here. Okay, it just took a while to show up. Okay, 0, 0. Okay, so let's just start up the timer again. I'm going to put in 12 seconds start. And we open 09. That's working nicely. 05. And countdown is over. Okay, so I want to reset. So 12. Right, why are these fields defaulting to those values? Okay, so we've got our basic counter working. We've got our countdown working. It goes to, our output goes to a file that we specify. And what I want to do actually is check, let's empty that out. If we go to our stack file and run the open stack command, just check that our field gets repopulated from the file location text file which we saved to our documents folder. So we're just going to run open stack, and there it is. So next time we start, it will automatically go to here. Okay, how are we doing for time? a bit longer than I expected, and because of the false start I had with the microphone. What else can we do? We can put a couple of checks in on the fields. A couple of checks in on the fields to make sure that what we enter is formatted correctly. So how would we do that? So one thing we don't want is a return key. So in both of these fields, Control E, there's a handler called, what's it called, on key or returning field. So that will catch any returns, and basically, let me just turn this up a bit because it's gone off screen. What do we want to do? We want to exit the handler to, let's say, exit return in field. So we're just going to, if return in field. So basically, if a return is entered into the field, it automatically just exits out, I hope. Let's have a look. No, that was minutes, wasn't it? Oh, minutes. That's seconds. Okay, minutes. Yep, that's cool. That's nice. So we want that in both minutes and seconds. So we'll do the seconds field now. We'll just paste that and save. What else do we want to do? Let's keep on the seconds. We need to make sure that we only enter 2 characters into the seconds field, and that those characters entered are numeric. So we're going to use the key down command, which will capture keyboard keystrokes, and we're going to be looking at particular key that is down, and that value will go into p key name. So first thing I want to do is to see how many characters we're actually typing in. So if the number of chars of me is 2, then exit key down. So basically, once we've reached 2 characters, we don't want any more keys to be entered, anything else to be entered into that field, so we just exit. That's nice and easy. Then we're going to do, we need to make sure it's an integer. So if p key name is an integer, that's correct, then so it is an integer. We then want to allow the message to be sent that the key was entered. So we're going to pass key down. Key down? Yeah, pass key down. Okay, I think so. Let's just try this out. Let's take the characters out and go 1, 2. Oh, that's 1, 2, 2. If the number of chars me, then exit. Let's just try to top, just see if that's any better. Apply. 1, 2. Okay. So why isn't that working? Am I in the right one? I'm in field seconds, correct. If the number of chars of mean is 2, then exit key down, that's okay. If p key name is an integer, then pass key down. I'm just going to do a save in case it hasn't been picked up. 1, 2, 3, still going. Okay, what am I doing wrong here? On key down, I'm in seconds. If the number of chars of mean is 2, then exit key down. Correct. If pk name is an integer, then we want to pass the key down and let it go through. Okay, why isn't that working? That should work. I don't understand why that isn't working. If the number of chars of mean is 2, so we've entered 2, we're going to exit key down. If pk name is an integer, then we're going to pass it to allow it to be entered into the field. I still had a return in there, that's the problem. Okay, 1, 2, yeah, there we go. And if I try to enter anything else, yeah. So the problem was, before I'd captured the return in field, we'd already put one in. So it had a number of lines already in. Okay, so that's working. That's good, because that was really confusing if that didn't work. What else do we need to check? We need to check that whatever we enter in here is between 0 and 59. So I'm going to do that on a key up, just so we can actually separate these two separate routines. Where are we? Key up. Then what do we need to do? I'm going to specify a local variable, which I'm going to call t-value. T-value? Yeah, why not? T-value. Yeah, t-value is good enough. And then we're going to put in here, we need to check that the value is between we need to check it's not greater than 59. Okay, so if we're going to put the text of me into our new variable, t-value, and then we're now going to check it. So if t-value is greater than 59, is that correct? Yeah. Then what are we going to do? We're going to put up an answer dialog. Answer, please enter. One day I'll learn to type. Enter a number between 0 and 59. And then what do we want to do? We're going to reset the field, put 0, 0 into the, okay, let's see what happens here. So I am going to put in number, let's put nothing, he knows what it does. If I put 67, please enter a number between 0 and 999. And we also need to do if it's empty as well. 59 or t value is empty, then let's try that. If t value is 29, t value. No, we can't do that. I'll just leave it like that for the moment. We'll sort that out later. Okay, so minutes. What do we need to do for minutes? Minutes. What do you want to do for minutes? 1 seconds. So we wanted to limit minutes to 3 characters, didn't we? So there's our minutes field. Exit returning field or returning field. Okay. So again, we're going to do a key down. Key down if the number of chars, number of chars of me is 3, then we're going to exit the key down again. And well, basically we actually need to do the integer check as well, so we'll just copy that. Control S, so we just check. So it doesn't take returns, doesn't take any other keys. And only takes 3 digits. Good. So time's running a bit short for me, so I'm going to have to wrap up here. We've actually got a working countdown timer. Let me just save it. It needs a bit of prettying up, but it is actually a fully working device. I'm just going to empty this out, save it again, and let's just default those to 0, 0. So now we're going to output this as a standalone application. So we can go to File, Standalone Application Settings. Although I'm only working on Windows, I'm going to actually choose to output for Mac, Windows, and Linux. I'm not going to amend any of the version information fields or the icons, which you can actually specify here. I'm just going to accept it as it is. It automatically saves as you make a change. And now I'm going to save a standalone application. I'm going to go desktop down, and we're going to save them out to there. I'll save my work, and let's see what it does. So we're building Mac, and it looks like it's gone okay. So let's have a look at our desktop countdown. We have a folder here which has the Windows exe, a Mac app, a bundle, and a Linux. Not quite sure what sort of file you call that file. So in one button click, we've actually created free a version of this countdown timer for free platforms. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shut LiveCode down. Let me just shut these down. I'm going to save. Okay, and we're going to launch our exe. Okay, and it's remembered. If you remember, we actually said where we was going to save the countdown text to, and it started up and done that for us. So let's have a look in here. We have a counter text which I'm going to delete now. And actually, I think just to make this fair, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our documents to do a double check. We can take out this file lock file and go back into our countdown app. We're now going to start. And hopefully file lock field is blank. We have no extra file here. Bring up a new Explorer window, which we'll set to our documents folder. Okay. So unclick this, put in a value here, check that the countdown works. Pause works. Start again. So the standalone countdown is working. Reset. Now we're going to pick a file location, which is going to be here, and we're going to call it new countdown. I'm not going to add text onto the end, and hopefully okay, we're now going to, let's refresh here. We've now got in our documents folder a file which contains the location where our countdown text is going to go. Let's bring that over for you. It's on another screen so you can see that. Okay, that's nice. So now if we say save to file, let's put in 10 seconds. Start, we should get a new file in here, which we do, which is 07. And it's counting down nicely. So the formatting's a little bit wrong, but in essence, our program is working. Needs a little bit more work on formatting the output, but apart from that, we're done. So as far as I can see, there are no questions. It may just be the fact I'm not used to. This is my first ever stream, so hopefully it's all okay. Anyway, with that, I'll say goodbye to you. Hopefully the next stream I do, we won't have the hiccups at the beginning with the audio. So thank you for watching. goodbye till next time.